Broadcasting live from Phobos, this is the Redemption League Playoffs.
Welcome everybody to the Redemption League Playoffs, broadcasting live from Phobos City. A little shot overhead there as we head into the final match of the semifinals week. Joining me today is HateDaddy, who you may have heard before on previous broadcasts. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Yes, it's seems this is something you and I do quite frequently together.
Apparently so. Right now we're looking at a rematch of our week one matchup between No Luck's Given and Danette Boys, which we will remind viewers that NLG did come away the winner there, albeit on a different map and when teams were very fresh. But it's rematch time. What you guys have probably seen so far on the screen has been two separate maps. The orange-looking map is Wanderlust, which will be DNB's home field, which we'll see in maps 3 and 4. And then the green map with tons of acid around it is Mephitic Waste, map 14, which we'll see on NLG's home field, which will be on the first two maps. For a refresher, the rules are a little bit different during the playoffs. Map rounds are still to 10 minutes or 5 flags each. And the map rotation is pretty new for those who haven't seen playoff rounds in an organized CTF. That makes home fields very important for teams to fight over, with the first two maps on the higher seeds home field. That's very important in a best of 5. If we don't have a winner by round 5, then we'll be alternating back between map 14 and map 36, which is color-coded for the home fields of the two teams. And we saw earlier this week, Frag Yourself did come out the winner in the other side of the semifinal bracket, and they will be meeting the winner of this match in the grand finals. But for right now, let's go over that game real fast. Now, Frag Yourself took a decisive 3-0 victory over the Walking Toilets, the 4th seed, in what is... most people would probably say it was a predictable result, but TWT did fight back. The first round went 5-2 in favor of Frag Yourself. Round 2 was 5-1, and round 3 was 5-2, so there were no shutouts. TWT was able to fight back and score a couple flags. Frag discrepancy was pretty high, a margin of 50 frags in FU's favor in round 1, 30 in round 2, and 30 in round 3, so they were much more powerful than their opponents. Shoutouts would go to Poto had about 10 flags captures total over 3 rounds, and Denizoa with 161 frags, the highest of any of the players. Only 5 frags above Poto, so Poto and Denizoa very strong players during this matchup. And a shout out to the Walking Toilets for a great run in the debut season of the Redemption League. Like the upcoming matchup you're about to see, this was a week 1 rematch, but unfortunately Frag Yourself remains undefeated in both matches and rounds played. Not one round has been taken off this team, so they are going to be the team to watch in the grand finals. Now let's take a look back at the teams here, and Hate, do you have anything to talk about with these two teams?
I do, actually. So one of the interesting points that you already had made at the beginning of the broadcast was that this was a week 1 matchup. And yeah, I mean, it did not go in DNB's favor. NLG pretty much had their way with them. And interestingly, in that week, I believe did we call that game? I don't remember.
Know. I don't remember if we actually broadcast that game. I believe we did.
Yeah, and Ed played that game. And since then, Ed has not played. I'm in the practice server right now. Ed is playing. So maybe at some point...
For those who are joining us, Ed is a player that is very highly regarded. And to some of us, he is a very hot and cold player, but he is very strong when playing on top of his game. So to see him potentially playing for DNB could tip the scales in their favor. Would you agree?
No, and I would go as far as saying if Ed is playing well, Ed's a top 3 player in any league. And as good as I think Saltmine is, and as highly as I think of him, Saltmine does not give them the gear that Ed gives them if Ed is playing consistently. But again, that's always the question with Ed is, can you get that consistency out of him? And so we've got him in the game now, it looks like. So, you know, it's kind of wait and see, right? So that's one interesting thing to note. The other interesting thing to note was just how one-sided week 1 was. I definitely think DNB got a lot better as the season progressed. I think they were probably the team that improved more than anybody. So it's going to be interesting to see because, number one, we're playing in a match, and 2 maps, actually, that were designed by Ross King. But Mephitic Waste in particular is one that's kind of known as one of those daunting specialty maps. And will DNB have any sort of offensive capability in this map? Will they have somebody that can rocket jump? You know, you're going to go over the maps, I'm sure, in a moment with everybody, but you'll be able to see that historically in this map, if you have somebody that can rocket jump, it opens up your offense quite a bit. And if you don't, it doesn't necessarily shut you down offensively, but it takes a dimension away. So I'm curious to see, number one, if Ed's in the starting lineup, what type of player are we getting out of Ed? And number two, when Mephitic Waste is played, is DNB going to have any sort of rocking jumping ability, or are they going to look to just muscle flags in and out? So those are kind of my 2 keys to the game to look out for. And then obviously the other end is, can they slow down the rocket jumping from Ross King? So look out for those things. And yeah, that's all I got so far.
All right. We are going to preview NLG's home field, Mephitic Waste. That's the map we're on currently. We'll kind of do a quick run through of Wanderlust when that match happens. So we're kind of a little bit close to game time here. But this map is going to be the map where teams are going to establish their presence, because this map will be played in rounds 1 and 2. The rocket jump that Hate was talking about was going to be from the flag pedestal up to the top here. Skillful players can also make a jump without touching this grate here and make it to the other side. That is without any sort of interference from below. They are a sitting duck from players who know they've rocket jumped and are out towards mid. So it's a very, there's a lot of finesse that goes into this map, and we did see in previous championships and previous leagues that players who were rocket jump and very apt to jump across here were able to score in record time. Another point of interest will be a mega armor up here, and that will be very critical for players who want to rocket jump and can keep as much health as possible. Mega armor reduces incoming damage by half, and that includes self-damage.
So yeah, I mean, so what are your thoughts? I mean, would you consider Mephitic Waste like one of those specialty maps? I certainly would.
I believe it's probably one of the few maps where you're challenged in every category. You're challenged in synergy with your team, communication, and a single player skill. Because, I mean, sometimes you're on an island on a map this small. It's just how it works.
Yeah. And the thing is in this map, things can get one-sided very quickly. You can see a team lose in 2 minutes. I mean, it gets pretty absurd. So, you know, if you kind of see that happening, you know, you might think, especially a team like DNB that's got players that might tilt more easily, you might see that. So, not making any predictions. I think that Ed gives them that other gear, like I said, but you know, how well is he going to fit into the lineup? I mean, it's been 4 weeks since they've played with him. Have they practiced with him? You know, these are real questions. So,
right.
We'll see, I suppose.
You will also see, for those who are not familiar with the map, you'll also see a lift in the middle, separating each base at mid. It's pretty... Oh, and here we go. Here's the Wanderlust, the map we'll see in round 3 and potentially round 4 if it gets pushed that far. A Soul Sphere is up at the top here, giving you 100 extra life. I don't believe there's a Mega Armor on this map, so only a green armor for players to fight over. But still, that's, you know, 1/3 of incoming damage cut down. So helpful for runners regardless. The base is kind of on the 2-tier setup. There's like an upper/outer path that also goes out to a couple different branches of mid. We saw one out towards the cliffs and one towards a super shotgun drop down. So there's a lot of interweaving routes on this map, and it's very tricky for teams. But at the same time, you know, this is also fits the same category as the map we just saw. It's a tough map. Teams are going to be pressured, and there will be team members that will have to perform on their own in order to help their team win.
You definitely see a lot of standoffs in this map, and it can be very grindy. Another point that I'd like to make, and you probably already made it in your previous broadcast, but one to make in this one, is that the playoffs are a little bit different. It's first to 3 wins. It is not best of 3. So keep that in mind. Like that.
It's a best of 5, but there are no ties, so it'll keep going until we fulfill that.
So I mean, the first team that gets those 3 wins, I mean, we could be here a while, or.
Oh, am I mistaken? Is it not best of 5? They actually mean best of 3 wins.
It's first to 3 wins.
Oh,
so that was the
first to 3,
clarification
okay.
that. Yeah. So if anybody had seen Radio Pass Tuesday, because that's what I was wondering. Is that is it best of 3? Is it best of 5 or is it first to 3?
I read it as best of 5.
Yeah, Stal clarified on the air it is first to 3, which is not necessarily best of 5 because you could have lots of ties, and those ties don't count on the scoreboard one way or another. It would just be the game basically never happened. In a map like this, you can see ties. It's unlikely that Mephitic Waste will produce any ties. That will probably go to score. But this map, ties are pretty frequent because it can be very grindy. So I am really curious to see if DNB can steal a game in Mephitic Waste. Look, man, like it's there for them. But the problem is I'm not sure that DNB gains the advantage in this map that NLG gains in Mephitic Waste, if that makes sense. So I think Mephitic Waste gives NLG a much bigger advantage. So looks like they're getting ready to go, so I'll stop talking. Do you have any other thoughts before we let them play?
I do not, other than that. Whoops, I thought it was the best of 5, but we are actually going until 3 shows up in the top right of your screen. That score counter is for rounds 1. The other one you see on the left-hand side is for the current match, how many flag captures each team has. It's a call vote. We're going to contribute to that and get the game underway. Presumably.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Okay.
Anytime now.
There we go.
Anytime now.
I think they were waiting for you.
Oh, I'm always ready.
All right.
Except for the times I'm not.
Wait. Okay. I'm just gonna, yeah.
And we're off. Round 1 has begun. We're watching Infer from DNB. First touch for him as well. Triggers the lift. Kind of fakes out the players at mid. He has one player right on top of him. They have it dropped. It just needs to get returned, and his team helps him just in the nick of time. First blood for DNB.
So first thing you see is they muscle those flags out. That was kind of what I was wondering, and they can score that way. But getting that first cap for them is huge.
And Infer's already across. Again, it's picked up by Waste and scored right out from underneath the defender. He tried to get Trixie, sitting on top of the enemy flag, trying to bait the carrier, and it backfired. 2-0 for DNB.
And Ed off to a quick killing spree, and it's no coincidence that Ed gets that killing spree. And what do you see? A 2-0 lead. So we're starting to see Ed play really well. Have to see how that plays out.
Ross King tried a rocket jump, but he hit the wall and unfortunately had to go out through the rest of the map, which is laden with enemies.
Yeah, bad start for NLG here. If you're Ross King, who's won multiple championships, you're just telling your guys to calm down. 2-0 is easy to get in this map. So if you need to come back, that's fine. Just you gotta stop the bleeding, which they have. You know, they were at a pace to be 5-0'd pretty quickly. So they just got to get a score.
Ross King slips out through the middle of the map. Gets 2, but it gets dropped, and Amar barely gets there in time to secure a flag. We just saw Ross King jump over from that upper spawn point to get a touch, but he's dropped pretty quickly. It's 2-1 now.
You know, and interestingly, Zen, Ross is not trying the rocket jump a whole lot. He is basically just trying to get in and muscle flags out. And I wonder if he's just thinking to himself, if Ed's going to be on D, I'm never going to get into that base healthy to successfully rocket jump.
And Ross King going out to the wider angle where the rocket launcher is, but most importantly a med kit, but too little too late.
Very slow pace for this map.
3 players. Well, let's be honest, when you don't have, very rocket jump able players like Dastin Dastin.
Well, Ross King can do it a lot too on this map. He's pretty good at it.
He is, but when you're talking... Oh, Wiz actually did that. That got returned last second.
Wow.
And then, wow, okay. So
3-1.
it got returned, and then I believe they got picked up, and quickly I scored it up across the top there is how I read those events. 3-1 for DNB now.
And this is a complete contrast to the week 1 matchup. I mean, DNB is just running NLG out of the server. Very impressive start for them so far.
It's only round 1. There's a lot of time left. Wiz was able to get a rocket jump out, and does a lift jump. Now, to explain that really quick for our viewers, you can time a jump, and the lift will be just low enough in descending for you to act like a stair.
That's big.
Meanwhile, DNB, during that explanation, scored another flag for 5-1. They won the first round on their enemy's home field. Keep that in mind.
And they didn't just win.
They
Convincing fashion.
This
Again,
is a wake-up call for
Ed.
NLG.
Yeah, oh, it's a huge wake-up call. And this is what you get when you have Ed playing really well. This is the get-over-the-hump player, right? So let's see what NLG does this second round. See if they can calm down and take it back and try to get around on DNB's field next.
Yeah, we're already in upset territory. I mean, this is, it's your higher seed. This is your home field, and you just lost a 5-1 on it. And you're losing momentum in the second round. We are in the second round. DNB's up 1-0, establishing momentum in their favor on their enemy's home field.
And you use the perfect word, Zen. They're shocked. I think NLG is sitting around right now, and they don't know what's happening. And they just have to, like I said, they got to just calm down. They just look. Let's get a cap, tie it up. Let's slow them down. Get back into this thing, because otherwise this is gonna get ugly.
And we saw on the camera how vital it is to establish that perimeter up top, because you can even a grazing shot will stop a player's momentum from reaching the other side. It's a very tricky jump to make.
Yes. And another point too. Looks like we might have.
Oh, Ross King picks it back up, and he gets dropped again. But the flag has to get returned for them to score.
And they stop it.
And DNB returns the flag. They went in the base and they did what they needed to do. They took the flag back. So there's no score for NLG at this time.
And so the point that I was going to make, Zen, DNB has done a phenomenal job of shutting down the rocket jump. And maybe I'm wondering if maybe that was Wiz's thinking of getting Ed back in, getting his confidence back, because Ed is really good on this map. And if you can get Ed in rhythm, good luck.
Yeah, he's one of the top players in the last 5 years for sure.
And it's just not coming easy for NLG. It just isn't.
Return from Legion, but that taking that slight detour to return his own flag could have cost him a score there.
Yeah. But look how hard it was for NLG to get that. So if you're NLG, you have to ask yourself, are you okay with winning this in a grind fest? I think they have the horses to do it, but I don't think they anticipated playing this way.
I don't think they anticipated playing defensively on their home. And intercepted. And it's scored by Legion. Great return and great pickup. Guiding it back to the stand in NLG's first 3-1. While we were watching that carrier, Ross King had scored, presumably through the upper path.
Yeah, through the rocket jump. So and that just tells you how quickly this map can change. I mean, we were talking about DNB basically in control, 1-0, and 3 quick flags by NLG. So now the pressure's back on DNB. So what's DNB going to do? Are they going to panic and try to switch things up? Or are they going to just keep on doing what they were doing?
Lamar just got body blocked, and that is, it's going to be tough for Legion to get back. He can, low on health. It's picked up by Ross. He's shot back. Oh my god, what is happening in this base? It got returned. DNB was able to return it in all that mayhem. We couldn't even track it. But great return from DNB.
You get lots of those in this with those last second saves right in front of the flag because of the spawns.
Unfortunately, there's no other way than to give our viewers whiplash.
Yeah. But you know what? They had to sign a disclosure before they watched this. So we are not responsible.
Yeah, we are not liable. Legion with a good shot to get, and it looks like the way's clear. If he can, the only threat was being ambushed from above, but his team was able to clear the way for him. 4-1 for NLG. We're looking at a reversal in the second round of this playoffs.
not the way you would want this to go either if you're DNB. Like, okay, great, you stole their home field, but you don't want to get completely rocked and then have them feeling well going into round 3, because they're just going to take it right back if they're feeling well. So for DNB, I think, okay, 4-1, we can come back, not out of the ordinary, but just make it look better. Don't go into the next round so flat.
Well, I mean, taking both rounds into account, you know, DNB punched NLG in the face, and now it's game time.
Oh yeah.
So both teams have the capability of going into, presumably, if NLG wins this, we're looking at an even start for the next 2 maps.
Yeah. But this is something to keep in mind, like I kind of said earlier. You know, week 1, there was no flash of this from DNB. I know they're not doing well this round, but week 1, they just got ran out of the server. So the fact that they're going to go into round 3 with everything to play for, all they've got to do is win 2 in a row and they're in the finals, speaks volumes about how much they got better.
Then now Wiz has the flag. He almost makes it all the way, but Ross returns it.
Ed makes the jump.
Ed made the jump. And now there's another flag for DNB. They're not out of it yet. I mean, the game is still live until we see 5 flag captures.
Yep. And you've seen DNB kind of throw. They're telling Ed at times, hey, take stabs at the flag because we're not getting the offense that we need, and they're starting to push us into the base. I wonder if that kind of, you know, sneak by Ed is going to result in NLG kind of slowing things down, because they leaked that one. That was 100% a leak from NLG.
And Mega Armor is still up at the main podium as well, center podium.
Ed got it too.
And a good double from Louis. But both flags got returned. Now Amar's out of the base. He spawned for X1. He's got 2. His team needs to cover him for the 3rd. And that is going to be 5-2 in NLG's favor, evening out the round count. We're going into the next set of maps, which is DNB's home field, Wanderlust.
We got a game, Zen.
Yeah, we got a hell of a semifinals. This is what you want to see in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You want to see a fight.
And I think DNB feels better. I know 5-2 looks bad, but getting that cap in and slowing the game down the way they did, I feel like they're going into the round feeling a lot better than probably what they would have if it would have been just a quick 5-1 loss.
Yeah, I mean, we saw... It almost begs the question. Do you believe that DNB is conserving energy for this set of maps?
I mean, I don't know.
Taking a round off of your opponent on their home field has always been a talked about point amongst players in every league.
Yeah. Any game. I mean, it's like we stole home field, like our job is done. And if we could get, you know, both, then that's even better, right? And I think, look, like that's true, right? Especially when you know you're playing against a really good team that is probably going to beat you. Stealing one from their home field it's significant, right? But
Amar's getting chased, but his teammates are covering him at mid.
Got it.
It looks like that upper route paid off for Amar. First blood for NLG. No.
Red flag taken.
Yeah, NLG's got it. Oh, he got out.
Wiz, getting a little bit extra momentum off those steps. Great pass from Wiz to cut across mid like that, and offered him a little bit of hard cover behind him as his team covered him. 1-1.
Good play. Very good play, because Infer and Wiz walked in together, and Infer basically opened up the gate, then shot Wiz out to give him that extra boost that he needed to get through, and then he slowed down everybody on NLG, and they got trapped behind the gate. So Wiz basically walked.
NLG's not slowing down. They said, all right, you capture one, I'll capture back. Amar just ran it, end to end with no problem, and he looks like he's going to go for another attempt. Didn't get the lift jump there. Took a blast. I don't know how much health he has currently, but he's stocking up. And his team's covering him very well, going back into the base.
Yeah, Infer's hiding in their base. Yeah, that's a cap.
And that is going to be a capture. With courtesy from Ross King, returning the flag for Amar to convert it. 3-1 for NLG.
And you're not feeling, and it's just interesting how momentum can shift, right? Like you saw DNB go into round 1 and just completely obliterate NLG, and you hope the concern that you have is that DNB didn't get too full of themselves and think that this was going to be easy and overlook them a little bit, but Well, 3-1 is obviously not that bad, but they're just not playing with the same moxie that they were in the first round.
And Wiz with a double getting out of the base is being peppered by chain gun fire. That flag has to get returned because Wiz is vulnerable in a very open base.
NLG got the spear with the flag, so the flag carrier has it, but you know, we don't know how much
Oh, it
HP
got
they
returned
have.
and scored by Legion, who happened to be on top of the pedestal. Great communication from NLG because you know Ross King Wiz is calling it.
Yeah, and I mean, now DNB, it looks like, you know, they gave everything they had to get that first round, and it's like, you almost wonder, like you asked earlier, did they give too much? Did they put too much emphasis on that map and not enough on their own? Because right now, NLG is doing whatever they want.
Yeah, they appear to be having issues cutting off this upper route that NLG is using. Both Amar and Legion are kind of trading off, and they're vulnerable in their base every single time.
Now, the good news is if you're DNB, look, you've proven that you can win on their map. Even if you lose this round, you could still win. And they lost this round. But, look, turn around and win, and you're playing for everything.
Well, now they are. DNB is on elimination point. And NLG, with one more win, will be going to the finals against Frag Yourself.
You know, I was curious. I wasn't tracking the spear so much, but it looked like, from what I observed, that NLG completely controlled it. Every time I saw it, they were on top of it. And that spear can make a difference, especially if you're able to pick up the green armor en route. You know, you can take a couple of extra shots with that.
Yeah, well, oftentimes when we were watching Amar, he would swing out towards where the sphere would spawn, and his teammates were covering him from mid. So it was really... It was great teamwork from NLG in order to control the power-ups and, more importantly, the middle point of the map.
And that's something that you see a lot with Ross King laden teams. Not only will they control the objectives in the map, but they'll control it in such a way that they'll pick it up en route to a score. So it's almost like it gives them extra HP. They just have to get halfway through the map instead of traversing the entire map.
And
you
Amar
saw that
spawn
a couple of
frags
times.
himself out of the base. I mean, well, covers
what a
spawns
play.
rather, but great work from Amar and a return from Legion to score the first flag on what, I mean, they're determining the opening momentum here. So are we looking at NLG advancing at this point?
I mean, DNB has got to get a flag back, and it looks like they have one here. But
It's good.
you know, I hope not.
It's too soon to tell. Like, are there any strategy changes? I mean, well, then there's no roster changes, right? I mean, we're looking at Ed, Wiz, and Infer.
Red team scores.
I mean, at this point, if you practiced all week with the goal in mind for Ed to play,
Red flag taken.
I'm not sure that I would change anything. I mean, and you know, you're in the middle of the map. I mean, how feasible is that? And the interesting thing about this matchup is there's been no close game. They've all been washes. So if you're DNB, like, you're thinking to yourself, okay, we got to slow down here.
Flag taken.
Because, you know, this not only is this, you know, match point, but like, okay, we don't want to get blown out either.
Ooh, good coverage from the team. Oh, but Ed was just too much. Dropped two carriers there, and they were able to return the flag. But more importantly, they have to get some momentum going. Amar looks like he's going to be leaving the base. Takes out one shotgunner, but one spawns behind him and returns the flag.
Yeah, and I mean, so early on in the first round on Mephitic Waste, you saw DNB basically muscle flags through. And whatever it is that they've decided to do on NLG, they have completely changed that course. They're not getting through by just powering through. They're getting frags. I mean, look at the frag totals. DNB is getting frags. They're just not converting it to offense.
Infer touched the flag, but rounded the pillar, and there's three enemies right there staring at him. You aren't getting out of that one alive.
No.
Blue flag taken.
And at this point too, Zen, I mean, obviously the game is much slower now than the other three. And I think both teams kind of realize what's on the line, so you're seeing both teams play a little bit safer. It'll be interesting to see like which team takes like that big risk next. And I think if it's going to be anyone, it has to be DNB, because your offense for the last 2 rounds has not been good, nor is your defense either. But if you can't slow them down, then what you need to do is you need to be able to score on your, score yourselves, and they're not doing that. And obviously they're down 1, so they need to get flags, because if they don't, they'll lose.
Yeah,
So
they can push it to another round with a tie here, but I still predicate on them having to be able to get a flag out. And I mean, Infer had a good way out, but just so many spawns on top of them.
Yeah. And I think if you're DNB, like,
Great work
you
from
have to
Infer. Oh,
start-
intercepted by Amar. Back home.
I think if you're DNB, like, you have to start thinking, do we just do 3-man pushes? Okay, like, just throw that 3rd man in there maybe 3 or 4 times every minute, because and they got the sphere. Now Wiz is gonna die with it, but
Blue flag taken.
you're not getting offense any other way. So, maybe if you just kind of manufacture that offense by getting a really big push, get a couple of those, you go up 3-2, and then you take this into round 5.
Blue
That's
flag
what you have to do.
returned.
But so
Red
far,
flag
I mean,
taken.
NLG is in complete control. They're just content to sit in the middle of the map and bleed DNB out.
Ooh, Infer's got people
Oh.
behind him. But it's
And there it
safe.
is.
And Infer
Yep.
looked like he was kind of fumbling with a way out initially, but his team was able to cover him. Now it's tied.
Yeah, but they might give up the rebound. They got to be careful.
Looks like the flag's
good
dropped
save.
and returned by Wiz. Great job. That is exactly what DNB needed to do. After collapsing in on their own carrier, they obviously sacrificed a middle position. But now they're back, and we still have 5 minutes left in this match. It's very grindy so far.
Yep. And DNB did exactly what I thought they needed to do. They ran 3 people at the flag, and they got 1 out. And they don't need to do that now, but they still have to get something going. And NLG is probably kicking themselves in the butt, where it's like, okay, well, sure, we sat here and fragged around in mid.
Infer
It's
did
like,
grab
you also-
armor. Oh, and they ate that rocket. Well, it's a prediction rocket for sure. Great shot.
But now you want to see offense from NLG. Like, where is the offense at if you're NLG?
Wiz has players behind him, and it's dropped. Legion is clearing away, except not really. Well, Infer was able to return it before Legion got back into the base. It's back and forth for sure.
Yeah. Well, this is classic grind, right? Like, this is what you see in grindy maps. You'll see some teams kind of take momentum, and then they'll lose it, and then it goes back and forth. But what is the definition of that grind is when you have momentum, it's still very hard to score for both teams. That's why you have a 2-2 game with 3.5 minutes left.
And we're watching Wiz as he walks out. He's got one player.
Handoff.
But he can't get the one shot on the other one, escorting Ross, and Amar and Ross were able to carry it all the way back. 3-2
And
now.
you love those are fascinating to see as viewers, because you see both runners meet each other in the middle of the map with the flags, and it's just like, okay, both guys are like nervous as hell, because they're just like, I can't be the one to botch this, because it's gonna be a score. Whichever flag carrier dies, it's like, okay, well, that's a score. So 3 minutes, DNB got to get the offense.
There is a player dropping back to challenge Infer when he gets into the base, and that's pretty critical to get health off a future carrier.
Blue flag.
And that's what NLG has been doing the entire time. They're just playing like a very slow. Oh, they might even have a pickup here.
It's in it's a relay race across mid, and DNB is unable to return the flag despite it changing hands twice in the middle
That's
of the
probably the nail in the coffin there.
Blue flag taken.
Oh, lift got lowered for Infer. That was good timing, but they still need to return the flag. And what a score! His-
I spoke too soon.
I mean, it's not over till it's over on this map for sure. I mean, we're looking at 4-3. It could absolutely turn away from NLG.
Yes, and you've quickly seen now with the game being a grind fest for 2-2 for a while, and in the span of about 2 minutes, you saw 3 caps. So what you saw was probably both teams realizing that it's like, hey, we need to start making some plays here and take some chances. And what do you get when that happens? You get a score fest.
We just saw them try to relay it across mid again, so that team is very dangerous just because they are all able to pick up the flag very quickly when one carrier drops it.
Flag taken.
And NLG has controlled the sphere this entire match to his end, and they're content to do that because it's yielded them more. It's yielded them more scores. final minute and a half coming up too. So if you're DNB, you might want to start thinking all low at this point.
Yeah, all-O is very dangerous though, and against a team like NLG, they're pretty much built to take advantage of a team that's not close.
Right, but you need, it's score, go home. So at what point do you make that call if you're DNB? Like, traditional offense isn't working and we need that cap.
Well, it's all up to team captain Wiz, who is his team is on the line of elimination. 1 minute left in the 4th round.
Yeah, and NLG is playing it right. They're not slowing down on offense either. They're not like turtling up, which oftentimes is how you see a team leak a flag. They're keeping the offense on. They're keeping the pressure on.
We're waiting with bated breath. I mean, there's only a few flag attempts possible now with the time remaining.
Flag taken.
Amar has one shot. And for maybe looking at the last possible run for his team. And it's home now, and Amar may be able to seal the deal, and that is it. So that 3rd win means that No Luck's Given will be going to the grand finals against Frag Yourself.
So what did we see? We saw you posed a question at the beginning of round 3. You said, did DNB put too much energy into taking home field? And it looks like emphatically yes. You saw kind of a shell-shocked NLG in round 1, but they turned around, heart of a champion, and they ripped off 3 in a row. So lots of credit to NLG. I mean, one game is not the end of the world, and they did not panic. So congrats to them. They're moving on to the final. And look, good season for DNB. You had a chance. You had everything in front of you, especially in that last round, where if you just kept it tied or you went ahead and took the win, you had a chance to win. But, I think NLG was the better team. I favored NLG in this matchup. So I think we're going to have a great finals, which we'll talk about on radio. And I hope you and I get to broadcast too, with FU and NLG, because I think those definitely were the best 2 teams in the lineup this year.
Yeah, I think that it was very touch and go for 1 point for NLG, but now we're looking at them going into the finals against an undefeated team. Frag Yourself has not even lost a round, so their work is cut out for them, and we'll see more of that next week. We are done with the semifinals so far, and I mean, next week is going to be 1 game, and that will be the finals, which I believe is also first to 3 wins. So that may, depending on the teams, depending on how much they want to grind it out, we might be seeing a lot of rounds.
Yep. So that should be fun. And we shall see.
And we shall see you guys again later. Thank you for coming out, sharing a bit of your Sunday with us. If you are interested in more competitive Doom 2 action on Xenaero, there's a link to the Discord there in the chat. If you are watching this on YouTube on the VOD playlist, just go ahead and check out the finals. Well, presumably, if the finals are up. But that'll be it for us here. Thank you for coming out and watching us ramble over Doom 2 competitive captured flag. Congratulations to NLG, and great try to DNB, who have made it this far in the first season of Redemption. We'll be seeing you later. Thanks for coming out, Hate.
Yep. Thanks for having me. See ya, guys.